Okay guys, it is a Friday evening after work here. Got an alignment appointment tomorrow morning, Saturday morning around 9 a.m. So going to try and knock out the tie rod because the ends and joints slash cartridges were not in stock. So they had to come in from California. So do not have those yet, but have the tie rod. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done because the tie rod is gonna need an alignment machine to be aligned. Because, you know, obviously the drag link, we can adjust that ourselves because that'll just be the steering wheel, you know, left to right. So we'll be able to judge that and align that ourselves. So no big deal on that. And we're gonna go ahead and knock this out. But basically what we're doing is just going ahead and setting everything up. They call them washers, like a lockout washer, but it's kind of confusing. I don't know, because, you know, you got washers right there. And then you have the TMR Customs that is really similar to this kit. And they have different instructions from what I've seen anyways. They kind of do things a little bit differently, I believe. Like I think I've seen one guy put anti-seize like on these cartridge threads right here, which is kind of weird because on these instructions it says to put thread locker, blue thread locker on these, not anti-seize. So it's I'm gonna go by these instructions obviously because this is you know, the same kit. So definitely going to try and make this as proper as possible later, but for now we're getting the tie rod set up. So I'm gonna take these cartridges, get some Loctite, thread them into the ends right here, and put the boot and the nuts on to hold that in place until we get ready to bolt it into the knuckle. But that's gonna be torqued down to, I think, something crazy like 135 foot-pounds, something like that, with a 2-inch socket. So there's the part number. I got it on Amazon, like $20 so that'll fit on these joints right here really well, and we'll be able to torque those down. I laid out here, pretty much got equal threads on both sides. So basically what we did was threaded the end into the tie rod until it grabbed on the threads, and then did 2 complete turns to the same one that side. So those are pretty much equal there. Going to adjust the tie rod, spin that so where it spins both of them at the end at the same time. So, you know, one's not gonna be longer than the other. I guess we could do it in that order, or we could set the length first, but I think it's pretty much got to be based off of the joint right there, the center of that. So I think that's how it's measured. So they didn't really specify that on the order of operations on the instructions there. So I think this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to install the joints first and then thread the tie rod equally to get the length here. So I'm going to measure the old tie rod and get that figured out. 135 really wasn't that much, especially with a large torque wrench like this. It really didn't seem like much, but having that socket definitely is very important. So that's the tie rod right there. So I'm going to go ahead and measure and then adjust this in to where I can get my length close enough to where I can start taking this one out and then trying to pop that one in. So update you guys here in a second. So here is the stock one compared to the new one. So this is 2.5 ton, obviously a lot beefier, and you guys can just tell the joints and everything. So I mean, the stock one's honestly not really that bad. It's just the actual like sleeve itself. You know, it's kind of like, I think it's kind of hollow, and this is like a weak point right here, I want to say, with this stud bolt. I don't even know what this thing is, but I've seen some tie rods on JL's brake right here, which is, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's just definitely stock, and you know, not 2.5 ton. And then there's so much engineering that goes into all this, all the CNC work, and just obviously this joint is going to be so much stronger than that one. This tie rod itself is going to get slammed on a rock, deflect and bend back. So I mean, it's not really going to have any issues out on the trail or anything you really throw at it. So it's going to be really stout and going to look really nice as well. So gonna have to figure out a way to reuse the steering stabilizer here. So it's kind of weird how they do these mounts. So you got a bracket that bolts to the axle right here, and then it mounts to the tie rod, obviously. So gonna be interesting trying to figure that out. Probably gonna get a Synergy relocation stud bolt kit. So stabilizer will bolt mount right there, and then the other end will attach down there on the tie rod. So probably get like a hydro assist clamp or something like this. I don't know if this is gonna fit around this tie rod. I don't know if it's gonna be big enough. I don't think it is. It looks a little bit too small. I think this is for a Synergy tie rod. So gonna have to figure something out on that soon, because need something to, you know, help with these larger tires here. This is also a good time to inspect everything else that, you know, we need to be looking at. Check the wheel bearings and ball joints and all that. Still obviously fresh, so no issues there. Brakes are looking good. Still a little dirty. No issues whatsoever. Still loving the aluminum knuckles. Haven't had any issues out of those yet. Everything's doing really well. Hub's great. Everything like that is nice. Good to go. Alright, so the stock tie rod measured out to about 61 inches right there, and that's where I've threaded the new one into. So I've got it kind of laying like that. raised up off the ground so I could thread the rod in, you know, with ease there. So no restrictions there, and it's gonna be pretty cool. Jeep looks pretty cool from this view right here. It's I'm filming on the iPad right now, so everything's kind of zoomed in, so everything properly. And I do believe they said to use blue Loctite on the jam nuts there, so we'll be able to look at that here in a second. And then I'll also be able to wipe off any anti-seize, you know, left on threads there, so that does not interfere with the jam nut Loctite. So the jam nuts having the proper preload on the tie rod there, so that doesn't, you know, come loose with going back and forth over time so much and ripping out eventually. So, you know, don't want any issues with that. So want to make sure we're proper and safe and that this is going to last a very, very long time. So what's actually really cool about this tie rod is you can interchange these cartridge joints here. So they unthread from the forged ends. So, you know, when those wear out, you don't have to replace the whole forged end and you don't have to mess up your alignment. So you can just unthread the joint and replace that as needed. And they're supposed to be the same. Alrighty guys, got those lock nuts on the knuckle there, torqued to 63 foot-pounds. So ran them with an electric impact just to snug them up, and then torqued them to spec. So I didn't want to go too tight on those, so we got those proper. And what I'm going to do now is get some type of degreaser, acetone, something to get the anti-seize off of the threads there, you know, the excess of what's left, so we can spin this jam nut and apply some blue Loctite right there so that won't interfere. And then we'll make sure that's tightened and torqued down properly. So far looks really good. It looks really beefy. It looks like it's supposed to. Definitely looks a lot better than stock. So as soon as we can get a front bumper on this thing, it's gonna be so much better. So really have not been able to decide on a front bumper here, guys. Definitely thinking about something minimalistic. Can't really decide on a stinger or not. Kind of leaning towards, you know, like a frame chop, no stinger, just because it's a long truck. So, you know, don't really want to have, you know, something protruding out in the front even more. So focus on the front end of the Jeep and the tires and the steering and all that good stuff as well. So basically what I did was I cleaned off the threads of both sides, and I got a, you know, regular adjustable wrench to hold the tie rod, and a pipe wrench, an adjustable pipe wrench to actually go on the jam nut there, because my adjustable wrench was not large enough. It was just shy of fitting around that jam nut there. So we got the washer in there, which kind of helps kind of dig in, I guess you could say. This is what I'm talking about. So these kind of help set the, you know, keep them from moving, I guess, to kind of dig in. So those should help out. I'm pretty sure that is correct. That's the first time I've ever seen those on a tie rod before. So All right, so it is time for the drag link. This should not take too long, hopefully. Just got to take the nut off up there and then down there, pop those out. Then I'm using a pickle fork to separate this joint from the pitment arm, and then that one's just gonna loosen the nut and then pound it out. So no big deal. Gonna get the nut up here started with this socket, and then finish it with this adjustable wrench because it's a tight space. But got the steering wheel actually strapped down, not too tight obviously, but nice and snug, just enough to hold it to where it's not going to move when we take off the drag link from the pitment arm, because we don't want the steering wheel to you turn the pitment arm, you get the steering wheel to turn and be off alignment. So we want this to stay center so it doesn't go too far this way or too far that way. So this will keep it nice straight in the center and help us align the new drag link once we get that in. So got that set up there, ready to rock and roll. All right, so this is the drag link set up right here. Still have to go grab the actual aluminum sleeve, but I'm getting the forged ends and the joints / cartridges, whatever you want to call them, set up, where they're going to go, because they are different on this end and that end, obviously, because this is curved and this one's straight. This one's going on the pitment arm, this one's going on the knuckle. The joints are actually different as well. It looks like, this is going to be shorter than that one, because if you look over here, but normally the stud sticks out really tall. This is just loose, about ready to be popped out, so that's why it doesn't look as tall. But this one up here has to be a lot shorter, obviously, so it can clear the radiator, whatever, all those lines and stuff. So that's how we've got them set up. And then obviously the jam nuts are ready with the washers, so those are going to be getting ready to get thrown on here in a second. Looks really good though, very, very clean parts. Alright, so a little tip here I have learned is on the JL, apparently since they make these studs on the joints so long, even on the aftermarket one, they're just so, I don't know why they do that. So like the nut will sit like about right here probably, I guess, once it's tight, and then you have all this extra. Don't really know why they make it, that long. I don't think the JK was like that, because I remember I was able to pull the drag link out with the tie rod still in, but as you can see I had to pull the tie rod, back that nut off, drop the tie rod end right there just so I could get the drag link out. And it's designed very similar on the aftermarket one, so I assumed it was going to have to be that way putting it back in. So I left that out until I can get these set to length and pop that in and then put the tie rod back in. Had just barely enough room to fit a torque wrench in there, so I'll be able to torque those nuts down and be good to go. But looking at the stock drag link, it had collected a bunch of rusty water, as you can see. I think it's hollow and probably has some good weak points, probably with this thing, same as the tie rod like I was talking about earlier. But you can see that rusty water, you know, because it sits at an angle like this. So I guess when water gets in there after you wash it or whatever, it'll kind of just collect in there and probably rust out from the inside and then snap when you're driving down the road. So maybe not, maybe so. I don't, just kind of my thoughts on it, but definitely something I did not want to keep in there for very long. And they don't really feel that solid. Like, this feels kind of not as solid as, you know, aftermarket, so should be a little bit more solid feeling, I guess, overall, because I mean the Jeep only has 3,000 miles on it, so it's definitely going to be better, I guess, the least you could say. But I'm about to measure it up and then set this one to length. You know, obviously twist this bar so we can get equal threads on both sides to pull these in, and then try to adjust it, get it up in there. Should be good to go, and then just fine tune it from there. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll show you guys a clip, maybe out in the light or something, once it's done. So really, you know, not much left else to film, just self-explanatory stuff, torquing the bolts down properly and all that good stuff. So I mean, that's pretty much it. It was a pretty straightforward install, very simple, and I would recommend for sure. So I'll be driving it here soon and letting you guys know what I think of, you know, the quality of handling and all that good stuff. So I already know from other people it's going to be very, very solid and tough in terms of taking abuse. So we're all set there. So installation though has been very smooth and very simple. I definitely do like this a lot. So, you know, compared to others I've seen, this is pretty headache free, honestly. So got to hand it to them for that. Guys, it is a Friday night and we just straight piped this bad boy, so we're about to see how it sounds. The large main muffler that was right here, and then the piping that exited after the axle. So we cut that right before the muffler and then cut it kind of midways on the bend where the axle is, like right here, so we could take that section out and then take that section out that way. I'm probably gonna put it, probably prop it up somewhere right here in the middle for you guys. Alright guys, actually I decided to move it over here to give you a little bit more light, so I might actually back it out so you can kind of see what's going on a little bit better. So here we go. So it's actually not that loud, which is actually good because I have to daily drive this thing. I didn't want it to be obnoxiously loud, so that's actually pretty cool. Muffler delete turned out pretty nice, guys. It's got a nice tone to it, nice little rumble. I mean, it sounds good, honestly. Like, it's not loud at all. All right, so this is the PSC Hydro Assist tie rod clamp for 1.75 inch tie rod. Obviously, as you guys know, we have the Fusion steering, so that's 2.5 ton, 1.75 inch thick. So we needed a clamp that would work. So we had to modify and do something with the sleeve here to get this giant bolt to fit. TMR Customs does have a tie rod clamp that will fit both size bolts, but they're out of the country right now. Synergy, track bar, stud, relocate for the other end of the stabilizer. So stabilizer will mount there, the track bar hole, and then on the tie rod. So I'm going to turn the wheel to driver and then mount up the stabilizer fully extended so we can get a good full range of motion. not shorted out or not extended, so show you guys that in a little bit. Okay, so Synergy track bar bolt stud relocate does not fit the factory steering stabilizer because it is too thick. So if you see here, it will not go through. So you have to modify that one as well. I don't really have time to try and drill this out. I have to drive to work at just a little bit, so I'm gonna grind this down and evenly all the way around and just kind of make this smaller diameter so it'll fit inside of here, and then maybe use some Teflon or something to kind of fill the space and make it snug. I got to do what works right now. I mean, it was only like 30 bucks. I always buy another one for, you know, permanent later, but this, I mean, it'll work for now. It's just a stabilizer, so it's not interfering with the actual track bar bolt here itself, so that's fine. That'll work. So that's what I'm doing right now.